A couple of weeks ago, my daughters and I spent a couple of days in Auckland, just spending a bit of time together before Katya started her studies. And I've got a collection of photos from this trip, and including this one here of just the three of us. It's actually the only photo that we took of the three of us together. And I'm going to use the Blossom collection to create a title page for a 6x6 wisteria album, which I showed you at the start. And I'm pretty much using this collection to start with. We did go to the zoo, so I'm looking forward to using some of the other collections throughout this little 6x6 storybook or memory book of our trip. So I'm just having a look here at which paper from this collection suits, and I quite like the hero paper, so I've cut that down to measure 6x6 so that it fits inside the page protectors. So I'm just cutting down a bit of a white daisy background here just to back my photo to help it pop out from the page a little bit, and I'm going to use the back of this floral paper that I've got here for a border, and later on I will pull in another piece of paper for that as well. So now I am just tearing a piece out of the side here. I just wanted to add a little bit of interest to this page. So I'm going to use this orange paper from the Blossom collection as well, and I'm just trimming down a wee piece here. This is actually a really cool wee embellishment trick or tip that you can do with scraps. So normally I'd do this with scraps of paper, but I just wanted to bring in that little touch of orange up there, and I've added it to the actual 6x6 piece rather than the scrap, so that I'm not getting the adhesive peeking through when I do this sort of tearing and when I stick the orange piece in behind there. So now I'm just roughing up that tear just to accentuate it or make it look a little bit more interesting. Now for the title, I'm going to use our foam alpha, but I'm actually going to colour them using our Distress Oxide inks. And so I'm pulling out the letters here, and I'm just putting them onto the packaging because I'm trying to put them onto something that they will slide back off afterwards rather than being sort of stuck there. And I had trialled this out on the alphabet a little bit before I had a go at this. Recently I did an album retreat with Close to My Heart, and they were colouring up bits of wood with the Distress Oxides, and I thought that sounded interesting. So here I'm using the peacock feathers. It feels very similar to Lagoon, which is one of the feature colours in the Blossom collection. So here I'm just using the blending tool just to get the ink on there. Now, I do recommend leaving this to dry for a little bit. Even though I did leave it for a bit, my fingers still came a little bit inky, and some of the colour did come off when I stuck them down. So I am matting the photograph, and this is where I decide that I need to bring in another piece of our paper here just to make that a bit more interesting. So I've pulled out this gorgeous one here. It sort of looks like vines, but it's got wee pops of orange and a limey green through it with that lagoon and glacier type colours in there. So now that I've got those there, I sort of look at this and I think, oh, maybe top left isn't the perfect place for that tier. And then I also realise I need to fit my title in up the top there. So I have to place the photo to allow for those letters to have the room that they need. So I'm having a look at the sticker sheet, and I'm going to cut out the journaling kind of wreath because I want to work out how much of it will fit down the bottom for me to add a few notes about what this collection, I guess, sort of this album sort of is all about. And so I decided to cut this in half, which is great because it means I can use the other half for another project at another point in time. And I'm just tucking that up and under the photograph. And now I'm going to rough up the edges of the papers that I matted the photo with. Quite enjoying this 6x6 size. It's quite nice and simple. Now the photo size that I've got here, basically I in with my selfie with the selfie software, I put 4 photos onto one 4x6. So this is quarter of a normal photo size. And is kind of the perfect size for this project. So the other advantage of having your letters and things on the plastic is that the see-through is that you can sort of place them a little bit, and I do decide that I need to move these letters over a bit, so it was good that I hadn't firmly stuck them down. I sort of do that a little bit later on towards the end when I'm quite happy with that, so I know I'm not going to need to move them around. So I'm just going to bring out the journaling pen here, and this is the 0.03 black journaling pen that I am just writing just a brief note, because this is just the cover page. It's not lots of details, but it just gives a bit of a reason for our girls' trip. So there we have it, and I'm just using the end of the pen to push down the letters, and I did notice that there was a little bit of green on there, but it was probably good that I used that so that then when I did the next bit I didn't get all the bits and pieces all coloured. So this sticker sheet is absolutely gorgeous, and I'm loving this colour combination. And I pulled out a little tag at the side there, which I'm going to write the date that we went a little bit later on. And I've grabbed out some of these different embellishments. So I've got the wood hearts, plus I've got the Happiness Lives Here wood shapes, and just sort of choosing some that I think will work with this page and thinking about sizes. Now, because I've got that orange piece of paper up in the top left, I need to pull in a bit more orange in the actual page. So I'm just popping these up behind to bring in some of that smoothie, because you'll see how I balance that out soon. But I just wanted something floral with a bit of the green stem and things poking behind where I'm going to sit this flower. So here I am using the Spiced Marmalade Distress Oxide and just inking this wood flower up, and I'll do 2 flowers. So I'm going to pull another one out of the bag soon in the same orange, and then I also do one using a smaller one using the picked raspberry, just to bring in a little bit of that pink from that spray over to the other side there. So these Distress Oxides have a really thick, deep kind of colour, which makes it a nice, you don't have the see-through nature that you can get with some ink, so it was really nice using those because it's got that depth of colour that I really wanted for these different flowers in here. So I should really leave these to dry a little bit longer, but I want to keep going with this and get this done, so I'm just being careful with my fingers and what I'm touching. So I am going to use the Tombow glue, the green glue here, to stick this down. It's a nice easy glue. It does dry clear, so if you do mess a little bit up, it will dry clear. The other thing that's cool with this glue is if you let it dry before you stick it down, it becomes repositionable, so it can be quite handy. Like when I painted those shapes before, I could have used that glue, let it dry and sat them on there to do that, the colouring, instead of getting more ink on my fingers than I necessarily needed. So now I've just gone to that sticker sheet here, and I'm just grabbing some of the little blue flowers with some leaves, because I wanted to add some foliage around the wood flowers that I've got there. So before I did this page, I had a look at different embellishments that I could use, and I'm now going to just work with the wee white flowers, and I wanted to tuck some in behind that torn little bit there, and just finding a few places. They don't stand out, but they do add interest and detail when you're looking at the page. So it's just about thinking about how that's viewed, and thinking and considering how to make it that little bit more interesting with a wee bit more depth. And I'm adding the date over on that little tab on there, and it's done.